So welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. We have a wonderful lineup today. Christopher, Dean Sullivan, and Angela Lockhart Aronoff. EJ is going to introduce them. My name is Joy Rosenthal, and I'm the president of One Breath Rising. We've been presenting poetry and jazz since 2015, and we're thrilled to be here and that we can continue doing it on Zoom. I think this is a year now. April. We started doing it on Zoom a year ago, and we've been able to keep it up, and wonderful people. And so it hasn't affected the quality of our work at all. I would encourage you to join our mailing list and follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and to donate. I'll put the way you can donate if you haven't already. And we're thrilled to be here. So I'll leave it to EJ, and you might want to put it on speaker view, and when the performers start, I will pin their video. So even if somebody else makes noise, which we hope they won't, but even if they do, you just won't take away the visuals.
So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to One Breath Rising second Sunday series. Today we have two wonderful artists. We have poet Angela Lockhart Aronoff, and we have bassist Christopher Dean Sullivan. Before I read their bios, I want to thank our sponsors, which is Poets and Writers, the Park Slope Civic Council, the 440 Gallery, the Garner Glazer Foundation, our individual donors, and you, our audience, for making this programming possible. I'm going to introduce the artists in the order that they will be performing for us today. First, we're going to have Christopher Dean Sullivan. Christopher Dean Sullivan is a critically acclaimed Chicago, Illinois born, Pittsburgh, PA raised bassist who is well-traveled throughout the US and abroad. He received various awards from the New York State Legislature and local municipalities, and from the NAACP and the Boys and Girls Club in recognition of his community work in the arts and arts education. He has also received the New York State Council of the Arts Champion for the Arts Award. His wide range includes jazz, traditional art forms, to open freestyle expressions, as well as Latin jazz, poetry, spoken word, contemporary and commercial music. He has performed or recorded with Archie Shepp, Sheila Jordan, Yusef Lateef, Odean Pope, Freddie Hubbard, Stanley Jordan, Irene Reid, Charli Persip, and a host of others. He has also performed with bass ensembles such as with Henry Grimes and Israel Cachao Lopez. And he appears on poetry releases by Golda Solomon, myself, EJ Antonio, and the Jazz and Poetry Choir Collective. Chris also leads clinics and workshops and works as a background actor on TV, film, and commercials. Our poet today, Angela Lockhart Aronoff, earned a bachelor's degree in theater from Florida State University and a master's in educational theater from New York University. She is a recipient of a Ford Foundation Summer Teaching Fellowship at Wesleyan University, where she developed an interest in writing children's literature. Together with her late husband, Kenneth Aronoff, she founded the Brooklyn-based nonprofit Living Lessons, an educational theater that toured the tri-state area. After her husband passed, Angela turned her writing interest toward poetry. Her work has been published in several anthologies and in the chapbook, What Is It You Think You See? She has also directed performance art for the Brooklyn Women's Chorus and the World Fellowship Center in New Hampshire, and used her training from the New York Writers Coalition to lead creative writing workshops in shelters, as well as at the Museum of Contemporary African Diasporan Arts and the Weeksville Heritage Center. Currently, Angela has returned to her interest in writing poetic books for children of color. I want you all to welcome our artists for today, and we're going to start with Christopher Dean Sullivan.
You're welcome.
everybody. I got to talk right now because, first of all, I'm sweating. Second of all, my headphone is slipping down my ears. I want to thank One Breath Rising for having me do this afternoon, this early evening afternoon. And it's really a groove. I was telling them earlier, I said, years ago, we used to, sometimes complain about having to go do a gig. However, we would say, wish I could phone it in. Well, somebody on the board said, well, be careful. I think this is your fault. Meaning my fault that I messed around here and said, I wish I could phone it in. I'll never do that again. I'm going to tell you that right now. What you just got finished hearing was a plethora of improvisational in the moment, which I love playing like that. Most folks I play with, they'll tell you, Chris, you like to solo too much. Isn't that why we play? Oh yeah, one of those brothers from a long time ago. We was talking about television and doing it on the radio. What we did was to help our generation realize we had to get out and get busy or the work wasn't going to be televised. We have respect for the young rappers. In the way they're freewaying. You're going to be teaching folks things, you better be sure you know what you're saying. All the folks in our neighborhood have plenty of know-how, but remember, if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be out there now. And I'm not coming at you with no disrespect. All I'm saying is you damn well got to be correct. Because if you're going to be speaking for a whole generation and you think you know enough to handle their education, be sure you know enough that and not just repeating what you heard on the local TV station. Sometimes they tell lies and put them into truths in disguise. The problem with that is we knew it wasn't going to be televised. They don't know what to say to our young folks, but they know that you do. If they really knew the truth, why would they tell you? First sign is peace. Tell all those gun-toting young brothers that the man is glad to see us out there killing one another. We was raising too much hell when they were shooting us down, so they started poisoning our minds and tried to jerk us all around. Then they said they had to come in and control the situation when they wanted half of us on dope and the other half in incarceration. The young brothers that wasn't killed by what they instigated, they just put some dope on that little brother's body. And you know what they called it? Drug related. Tell them drug related means they don't have to be any investigation. At least that's how they're going to play it on the local TV station. All you 9mm brothers, chew on something to think about. Tell them you heard that this is the new word and they need to work that stuff out. Because somehow they're feeling the wrong way with a gun in their hand when they're really feeling independent to such a degree that they're pulling contracts for that man. 5 will get you 5 to tell you it's hopeless out there on the avenue. But if they really knew the truth, why would they tell you? And when they look at you like you're insane, or start calling you scarecrow, saying you ain't got no brain, or start telling folks you suddenly gone lame, or that the white folks have finally co-opted your game, or worse yet, implying you really don't know. That's the same thing they said about us a long time ago. Young rappers, one more suggestion before I get out your way. But I appreciate the respect that you give and what you got to say. I say respect your community and spread that respect around. Tell the other people they need to calm that bullshit down. Because they're terrorizing our old folks and bringing fear into our homes, and tell them they don't have to hang out with the senior citizens. Just say, damn it, leave the old folks alone. And you know who's ripping off your neighborhoods. Tell them that BS has got to stop. Tell them we're sorry they can't handle it out there, but they're going to have to take that crime off the block. You know, when they look at you like you're insane, or start calling you scarecrow, saying you ain't got no brain, or start telling folks that you suddenly gone lame, or you really don't have your game, or worse yet, saying you really don't know. That's the same thing they said about me a long time ago. And when they finally say you lost your nerve, that's the same thing we said when they started crying Johannesburg. Young folks need to know you can't have it both ways. You can't have respect on every other song and every other day. What I'm talking about now are the raps about the women folk. On one song, she's your American African queen, but on the next one, she's a joke. And you haven't said any words I haven't heard before. That ain't no compliment. It just insults 8 people out of 10 and questions your intelligence. 4-letter words and 4-syllable words don't make you a poet. It just magnifies how shallow you are. And it lets everybody know it. And when they look at you like you're insane, or start calling you scarecrow, saying you ain't got no brain, or start telling folks that you've suddenly gone lame, or that you finally done gave up your game, or worse yet, saying that you really don't know. That's the same thing they said about us a long time ago. When they start telling folks you finally lost your nerve, that's the same thing they said about Johannesburg. Listen to me. You ain't insane. You do have your game. You haven't gone lame. All you have to do is keep the nerve. Keep your nerve. That's all. In the beginning, beginning was a beat. And the beat is the rhythm of the ancestors. And the rhythm of the ancestors is the peace to humanity. And where you have peace, you have harmony. How much time I got left?
Thank you, Chris.
Yay, yay.
Hey,
Thank you.
you. Chris will be joining us at near the end for about another 10 minutes. So hang around, everybody, hang around. Now I'd like to introduce Angela Lockhart Aronoff, and she's going to give us some of her wonderful, wonderful poetry.
Thank you, EJ. Just wonderful. Christopher, thanks. Great. Can't wait to hear you play some more. And thank you everyone who showed up from Brooklyn Poets and Brooklyn Ethical and Park Slope. It's just really nice to have your support today. Thanks. Okay. I'll just read. American Mojo. Down in the low country of South Carolina, near them disappearing sea islands, those twice sold and arrived on ships were initiated in the old world ways to assure their new world survival. In this old, it was the old Mojo women who worked and birthed another way into the melting, the Middle Passage and Trail of Tears, indentured servitude, paper sons and daughters, and the railroads, and the cotton cabins, while the kudzu, great migration, covered up who got raped by who and who gave it up for a government ID and why. As descendants of a barefoot preacher by the name of Moses, built a praise house on a foundation called New Hope, still standing on top of that Mississippi red clay hill, as the church women continue to tend to the skin color and the red-headed nappy, braided up hair politics, high cheekboned and almond-eyed midwives, still birthing all that mojo up into the melting. Rice. Rice moves her tongue differently, deliberately slows down the words with ice blue accuracy to birth her own way of being, to straighten out that melting sound, rid herself of that humid wet, no book learning sound, that dreaded folksy, weeping willow, don't know no better, sea island, no low country sound. Rice needed to and always did work hard to work that babble off her tongue so she don't sound like kinfolk, don't want to sound like the journey, don't want to sound like that mix of tribes she is. Witness. What is a mother to do with her quiet girl, born with a veil, blessed with second sight, talking and playing with unseen beings, sleepwalking in her dreams, sleepwalking in girl-veiled dreams, waking her mama up, taking me by the hand to see the shining girl in shining armor in the doorway, wielding a sword and shield from the old book, wielding the old book, sword and shield of imaginary beings. Overactive imagination, her daddy said. Teach her to keep up with her thinking or she'll lose her mind. Me and my girl, looking up into this wide sky, lay on our backs in front of the house. She tells me she sees the house rabbit and the cloud dog running for their lives. Then she cries for the baby, bird fallen from its nest, peeping in its shell. How does a mother protect her mojo girl? Wally Mae, you better come out here and get your child. Raisin, You, the tallest one in your first grade class, running up front from the back in record time to win the race. You were the only one who got that horse trot, dance rhythm right on that cold spring sheets of rain day, that no playground day when you got called to the front of the whole class to trot for the others who could not, would not trot like that. You know, the ones in the pretty little dresses, starched stiff little color wheel dresses, the ones who would only move to correct your ability to speak, spell, or subtract, the ones who would never look for you during hide and seek nor touch you when they played tag, but made damn sure to stare all up in the shade of your face during history class. You just growing up being the only raisin in the pound cake, Grandmama Vermissy said. Come on over here and let me teach you how to work this here Gold Coast cotton. And with your hands, following behind your grandmama's hands, you learn to stitch and patch the math of the cloth. You learn to discern the tint and tone of how to reckon things differently and question the scraps of truth presented as answers that never add up. Daddy taught you to read, but in his mama's stitching, you started to write. You, the winner of the race, the only miracle in the pound cake. Perception. Girlfriend came over the other day and asked me where my God was. It took a moment before I answered, and she said, "You don't own a TV?" I choose not to. You don't have a TV? It's not a law. You don't watch TV. Listen, I can't hear the universe or my ancestors with all that noise going on. Then weeks later, after he learns I don't own, don't have, don't watch TV, my own daddy betrays me with, "Well, baby, do you need somebody to buy you a TV?" You see, many all kinds of moons ago, lightning hit my urban dwelling and the television went boop, then blank, as this little whiff of white greasy smoke lifted up from the back, floating towards the ceiling, where it dissipated like a soul seeking the light. Let me tell you now, I know there's spirit in liquor and there are signals in smoke, but I have never encountered a spirit passing on from a television. So I took control of my own perceptions, left the carcass of the delusion box on the curb, took back the real myth and spirit, the universe and my ancestors. And as I awoke from the false dreams, recovered from my vision addictions, I resisted becoming a dreaded Cassandra, warned no one of the corporate-sponsored Pandora's box, warned no one of the market-driven vision gods, avoided warning, but the reactions were all the same, as I became the snake-headed Medusa instead, cursed by last words, then frozen in time. You don't own a TV? Thank you. Mirror. She did not remember her supplements this morning. She did not think the poems of Phyllis would linger the way the sonnet of June did, done, do. She did not recognize her own humming, that memory sound of mixed blue rhythms, Mississippi and Geechee, DNA, tongue, sound, suspended in air, while she thinks the musing in her humming means something. To remember means something over the sink, as the mirror-veiled steam conjures up snatches of her memories, reflected back at her as she braids and ties small sections of her stardust-colored hair, all done up in a platinum crown to honor her long family line of long memory mojo women, midwife legends, freedom-fighting church mothers, tending to their quiet, early rising seafar girl, always drawing four-dimensional boxes the way Sister Aunt May Phyllis had taught her. The seafar girl, now an elder, who writes into her calling, mindful of her time, gathering her adopted daughters, reflected in her crown of stardust. Whispers. Listen here to what we be telling you now. All these oceans and seas be rising up. Old winds be flying back over the passage, hauling all that spirit, dust of the restless. May we ancestors circle, be unbroken with what was passed down to you, born in you. We work the mojo, the spirit for you. So listen good now. Here tell you keep inside. It's time to rid yourself of that hiding mask and listen. Listen to that whispering sea haint, drifting and traveling that wind of fear. She'll be all up in your backyard looking for trash to eat. And listen, she is that something unseen, be whispering your name. Don't you breathe a word. Don't you open your mouth. A past was born in you, passed down to you. We still work the mojo and the spirit for you. The columns of the second era have fallen, and this here be a new time, new direction, a new future in the seasons of water. May we ancestor circle, be unbroken. Earth Mother, have mercy. Here comes the rain. American melting. Our melting was never documented on the census. We never did find out how our great-great-grandfather made his way from China to America to work the Central Railroad, then made a home near the Blackwater Ogeechee River. Africans, Black Indians, Black Chinese. Great-great-granddad claimed he was a Mongolian, took the last name of Raspberry, named his daughter Georgia. No one remembers Georgia's mama's name. No one left to even claim they remember her. Say tell she was a mean Geechee woman. So Georgia up and married a card-carrying Cherokee by the name of John Washington. Georgia Raspberry and John made 4 children. Harriet, my grandmama, said we all be Geechees. Harriet was introduced to and married Wallace Brothers from Holly Hill, South Carolina, where Cousin Bernard said he once saw a graveyard where everyone was claimed by the last name of Brothers. Headstones for what looked like miles and miles of brothers, birthed, raised, and buried by our midwives. Wallace Brothers' mama, my great-grandmama Julia, is listed as inventory in a South Carolina plantation ledger kept down in the county clerk's office. Julia say her mama was an Igbo, and Julia's permanently blue-stained hands worked the OCCP plant till she and John Brothers, him half black, half Irish, run off to Florida to live on that 40 acres and a mule land John's daddy paid for. Julia was known for her cooking, healing, and quilting snatches of blue patches. And when her son was grown enough, Wallace followed behind Malcolm X into Africa and found his mama's mama, Igbo tribe, we now claim. Wallace married Harriet, and their girl, Wally Mae, my mama, married an airman from Mississippi who turned 18 on a battleship headed for Japan and the Korean War. He is my father, descendant of the Native Guard. His name is Moses. Moses, just like his daddy's name. Keeper of books. She rises from her bed of Egyptian, tightly woven red cotton sheets, bound for the kitchen. Blue flame percolating, black coffee poured into a sea green cup she holds in her hands. Returns to her quilt-covered bed, her lamp-lit writing room of scribbled first drafts on yellow notepads and morning journals, near her old family-framed photographs and all her beloved books. We are the books of this poet, the keeper of books. She gathers nightly from the streets and the stoops of Brooklyn, then takes us to her home. We books are her children. Some are ancient, dusty, musty old books, treasured old books, books from some past point in time that highlights chapters dealing with the living and the dead. Art history and quilting books, teaching psychology and spiritual books, ordered by subject, dog-eared and highlighted. New books next to stacks of books on their backs, books behind books or upright side by side. There are no spaces in her bookcases. She knows where each book lives in her 3 rooms. In the spring, she walks the Prospect Park with her book bag, gathering small flowers that she presses between the sheets of wax, paper, and later placed between the pages of her poetry books, who are forever dreaming of themselves. I am blessed to live in Brooklyn and be supported by a Brooklyn community of poets. Brooklyn, J.P. Howard's women writers in Bloom got me out of my room and staring at the ceiling and writing poetry in community, and that is a blessing. Brooklyn Women's Chorus allowed me to meet EJ, who is also part of that community. And this poem I wrote in a workshop with J.P. Howard. It's called Yellow Boots Suhitsu. Fall 2019, 5:45. Woke up too late to journal this morning. Outside the kitchen window, a yellow sun rising into a day, clean, as I listen to the Zuhitsu movement of wind all up inside my head. Harabelafonte singing, daylight coming and I wanna go home. 6:11 a.m. My morning grown woman warrior routine begins. I shower off the night sweats with Rachel Maddow on the iPad propped up behind the bathroom faucet as I apply my age-appropriate war paint over the sink. 7:20 a.m. I lock my black painted apartment door, turn around and notice a pair of little canary yellow rain boots outside apartment number 2B. Little yellow plastic boots laying on their sides, abandoned there for weeks. I head on down the marble 1920s post-war staircase. Past each black painted apartment door is a story. 5 stories per floor. Some stories I know, most I don't. as I turn and continue down the third and second flights, landing on the first floor, stepping out the front door, skipping down the 3-step stoop that faces the dark tree-lined park. All my dad ever wanted to see was the northern fall colors of dying green, red, and yellow leaves. And as I descend into the 15th Street subway stop, headed uptown towards the next ground zero, I take note that my dirty old city boots need shining. And as old as I am, I still miss my dad and mom, wearing this mask, wearing these plastic gloves, keeping the distance. Mama and daddy saying, "Angela, baby, when you coming home?" Human. This early morning of the 2nd January of this world pandemic, I woke up to the sound of beautiful birdsong. 5, perhaps 10 little blackbirds fly over the naked treetops to flutter over the rooftop of a cage-covered steam pipe. Birds maneuvering to land on the rim, one at a time, bending their little heads through the large screen opening to drink from a pool of melted ice water before the next blackbird claims her space on the rim for a moment to quickly drink her fill. And as I watched the workings of nature flying outside my apartment window, watching the next winter storm approach, I realized I had forgotten how to sing. And this is my last poem, The Darkest. She is my 2-headed daughter, now humming some dangerous blues, forever leaving, leaning, and looking back into my mama-weary eyes. She is looking forward towards the north, where all the difficult teachers reside. My girl is a dangerous blues singing woman with this little fire life of hers, taking notes at the crossroads and covering her checks, wind at her back, ever moving, never lost, traveling with the spirit along the dusty roads through the rice, cotton, and indigo fields with the iron our ancestors' once mastered, then were sold by the old world. I remember my mama chanted a dark mantra while holding a lamp on the path, also lit by the light of weeping trees. She said, "Trim your wick good, so the flame shines clean and bright on her way, knowing that the ground beneath you and her lantern be the darkest." Thank you, everyone, for listening and for your time. Peace.
Thank you, Angela.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful.
Nice reading.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Angela. That was beautiful.
Wow, awesome.
Wonderful. And now we're going to go back and Chris is going to take us out with one selection. And if you can hang around, we'll open up for a couple of questions from the audience to the artists.
EJ made sure she said Chris is going to take us out with one selection. Because we don't know when that one selection is going to be over.
All right, y'all, everybody. Christopher Dean Sullivan.
Was that 10 minutes?
That was it.
He just said that's enough. God dang it.
So everybody, we're gonna open up for some questions. And I have a question for Angela that JP submitted. And so here it is. So Angela, we'd like you to talk a little about your writing process and give us some idea about, I understand you're working on a poetry manuscript.
Yes, I am. I have been working on it for probably good 15 years. I have a full-time job that I work in service, and I love my work. And my poetry is my other job that starts at 4:30 in the morning. I get up every morning to write, and then this telecommute has been like a blessing because now I don't have to write on the subway or, the different places. I can just write until 8:30 when I have to log in and then do the work I'm also called to do. And then, work in the evening. This actually, the idea of this book of poems started when I was in Brooklyn Women's Chorus, and we were doing a a performance, singing chorus, performance arts about migrating into the United States. And everybody had immigrant stories, but I was the artistic director, so I didn't really, it was okay for me not to speak, but my head was whirling with my own family stories. And one of the reasons I became a poet is because my father, Moses, who I mentioned in my poem, is the son of a long line of Baptist ministers. And my father spoke, he passed on 2 years ago, poetically in rhythm and that Baptist. And I was always fascinated with that, as well as fascinated with my mama's Geechee speaking folks who spoke in a rapid. And I always wanted to learn how to get the folks of the speech of my people into poetry. Most people are like, well, go read this or go watch this. And I'm like, this is all in my head. But so I take a lot of classes at Brooklyn Poets, a lot of workshops. In the past 5 years, just been intense, focused, probably 5 workshops to learn, one, how to get the thoughts in my head on the page and make them sing and be alive and all of that. I started writing at the age of 8, but I just wrote because it was something I did. I never, and it was like a calling. I think Lucille Clifton talks about it. It wasn't a decision. It's just something I started doing, and writing children's books for myself, and then writing journals, and then writing plays, and then decided poetry might be something I can do myself once I gave up my theater company. And it has been quite a joy. And for many years, just writing by myself. But I'm in a mentorship program with a wonderful poet by the name of Jay Deshpande. And he called me a workhorse the other day. And I'm thinking, well, I'm also a Pegasus. I don't want to call myself a unicorn because I don't think they're quite sharp enough. But yeah, I do work hard, but I also have another playful, light, dreamy side to myself, and I think that might come through with my poetry.
Yes, it does. It comes through very. Your poetry never whether you're writing it in an urban setting or a rural setting, we are never untied from the earth, and we're never untied from the ancestors. There's that tie is always there.
Oh, they're always with me too.
and that is a really, it really gives the work a really a full body quality to it, that you know that there's something greater than just what you are experiencing. And that clearly comes through. Chris, I have a question for you. Since you did some of your spoken word for us, I would like to know, does your music inform your poetry, or does your poetry inform your music?
EJ.
Yes.
That's a nice question. That's a heck of a question. Now to answer it. No, actually, the music actually is first. And then from there, what I formulate around, verbally. Originally, I was going to do an original poem I wrote. But as you know, as well as Golda know, and anybody else that knows me, when I do spoken word, I like to retain it. So I wasn't retaining certain parts of this particular piece. However, the piece Message to the Messenger that I did is an adaptation of that I took on for this particular situation that's going on this year and the years prior, like at least 10 years prior. But Gil Scott Herring wrote the original piece, and he's one of my most prolific jazz, funk, adult contemporary spoken word artists, and I've been listening to him since the 60s. And he was born April 1st. And so this month, there's a lot of folks, and I'm one of them, that is paying homage to Gil Scott. So that's the reason why I did that piece. However, you ever go to listen to it, the music does it. I think that's the bass line. But of course, I did it differently because what I was hearing and feeling in the freedom of the expression of the piece itself, at the same time addressing the social ramifications that are happening even today from the 60s. I just felt it to be apropos to do, to pay homage to Gil Scott. And I meant to say that during the course of the performance. So I'm glad you asked that question.
Great.
So yes, to answer your question again, generally it's the music, and whatever comes from that comes these things called words.
Okay. So for those of you when Chris says he was trying to retain it, in poetry we have like we say somebody's off page or on page. And what that means is I personally am not a poet who retains what they write because I write so much. I don't sit down and try to memorize it. So even though I'm performing my work and improvising my work, I am on page. Chris likes to do his stuff from memory. So he's off page.
As much as I can be. I don't even when it comes time to read music, I take it home and I attempt to retain it. And there's a few of you out there that I play with. Bob Gluck is one of them, and Jackie Young is another one that knows that whenever I'm getting something written, I want to retain it as much as I possibly can. Even in my own situations, I say to the musicians, attempt to retain this. And then I find myself looking at the chart.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple of questions from the audience. If anybody has a question, you could take yourself off mute and ask.
I just want to thank you for a lovely afternoon. Open Expressions is going on in my living room. So I have to split. It's being hosted in the other room. This was the best, the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Jackie.
Hey.
You got a question?
Well, let me come up with something. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed the music and the poetry. A nice marriage. I had wondered if Angela was going to read while Chris played. That was kind of my fantasy, but
one day we'll do that.
One day, everybody should understand what happens with these virtual readings, unless you have some really high-tech people who can keep everything from being distorted or delayed or whatever. We really couldn't do that. But, if we continue to be on, streaming as whatever situation develops here with, with our pandemic that doesn't seem to want to go away. We might be able to look into something like that, but if it's not done right, it can really be a mess.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't try to do that.
Yeah,
because a couple of times Chris was playing, I was tempted to get myself off mute and just kind of go with it,
Yeah. No, that's my that was my fantasy. I said, they're gonna jam together. Okay, to be done at a later date.
Right.
Yeah, but no, I really enjoyed it. Chris, are you working on a project of your work or with a band or?
Yeah, actually, I started a new project. Actually, we just did a video on it, and it's a performance video.
Okay.
But it's the project. It's one of 3 or 4 projects that I'm looking to record. One of the latest things I did with pianist Bob Gluck. This was a few years ago. We did with pianist Bob Gluck, Billy Hart, Eddie Henderson, and myself, of course. It was the music of the NYD Sheep Band.
Oh.
That was probably one that was a project I really we all did. We all really dug that project. And
Right.
of course, it's our take of the M1DC music, and it's based on the book You'll Know When You Get There, which is a tune
Yes.
by Herbie Hancock that Bob wrote, and it's published in I think Chicago or something. Hey Bob, I know you're out there somewhere. You want to tell them?
Yeah.
Somewhere. University of Chicago Press. But
Yeah.
this was stuff that Chris and I and Tony Tabal and Eddie Allen were playing together for a while before we got this nutty idea to give Jabali a call, and he was really into it, and then Eddie came on too, Henderson. It was really fun. But one thing I can get Chris to probably speak to that was really interesting was that we had all kinds of ideas about what we were going to do, and we played some of them out, in the studio with Billy, and then Eddie shows up on the day, and it just changes everything.
Yeah, changed the whole daggone. But that's what happens. That's what.
Yeah.
Yes.
It also says something in terms of process and remaining open.
Yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. And actually, Bob and I are working on a project now it's a trio project with a very fine drummer. Carl Latham is his name. He's been everywhere with everybody. And so be looking out for some collaborative stuff. Now, to answer your question, am I doing something that I'm doing? Yes, I am. And
Okay.
I'm trusting that I finally get something out before the year is out.
All right. All right.
Yes.
Okay. I got my MP3 money.
Okay. My sister.
Both
I like that statement.
Well, both Angela and Chris will keep us apprised when they have something new coming out, and One Breath Rising will either put it on its Facebook page or send it out to our email blast. So we'll if they keep us informed, we'll keep you informed.
Beautiful.
Well, everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting us today on this very rainy Sunday. And I hope that all of you had a wonderful time. And next month, we're going to have the fabulous Lee Odom on May 16th. And she's going to show us some of her video work that she's been doing and play some wonderful music for us. So I hope that you will join us next month for Lee Odom, our feature for One Breath Rising second Sunday series.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you,
Thank you.
Angela.
Thank you, One Breath Rising, and Angela and Christopher. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Take care, Joy.
And I also want to thank the board of the One Breath Rising. This has been a groove.